Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're getting into something huge. Why workplace mental health isn't just some soft skill anymore. Nope, it's become a hard-line business strategy. It's not just nice to have. It's basically the new requirement for staying competitive.
So let's just start with a question that I think hits home for a lot of us. I mean, the last few years have totally rewired how we think about work. And that word, resilience, it's been everywhere, right? But what does it actually mean? And maybe more importantly, whose job is it to create it?
Workplace stress isn't new. But according to HR expert Kelly Palanti, the pandemic was the moment that just blew the lid right off the whole conversation. It really forced everyone, companies and employees, to finally deal with issues that had been bubbling under the surface for years.
For the longest time, the thinking was, well, pressure and stress, that's your problem to solve. Here's a yoga class, here's a meditation app. You just need to learn to bounce back better, to handle the load yourself. The burden was placed squarely on the individual.
But now we're seeing this massive shift in thinking. We're moving away from asking people to just be endlessly tough, and we're starting to ask a much better question. How can the organization itself become more resilient? How can it build a structure that actually supports its people?
And the goal here is to build what Palanti calls a mentally safe environment. And this is so much more than just physical safety. We're talking about a culture where you can actually say, I'm burning out, without being afraid it's going to kill your career. A place where setting a boundary is seen as a sign of strength, not weakness.
And let's be super clear here. This isn't just about feel-good vibes. This is a core business strategy. Creating a mentally healthy workplace has a real, tangible, and honestly, a pretty massive return on investment.
Yeah, the benefits are super concrete. First off, it's a huge tool for recruitment. People are actively looking for companies that walk the talk on this. It keeps your best people from walking out the door. And it hits the bottom line directly by lowering healthcare costs and cutting down on absenteeism. It's a win-win.
And this isn't just some abstract idea. As Kelly Palanti points out, there are literally tools out there right now where you can plug in your company's info and it will spit out the financial benefit. We're talking hard numbers that prove this stuff pays off.
Okay, so how do we actually start building a culture like this? Well, it often starts with something that sounds so simple but is incredibly hard to do, especially in our 24/7, always-on world, setting boundaries.
This is the big one, right? This is what stops so many of us. You've been answering emails at 10 o'clock at night for 2 years. It feels like that expectation is set in stone. How on earth do you walk that back without making things super awkward?
Well, Palanti lays out this really simple 3-step approach. First, you just have to acknowledge to yourself, okay, I need to make a change. Then, and this is the magic part, you announce it. You're not making a demand, you're just inviting people to see what you're doing. And then, you just practice it, starting small.
And this quote is basically the perfect script you can use. When you frame it like this, it's not confrontational at all. It's totally collaborative. You're just sharing something you learned that you're trying out for your own well-being. It makes people want to support you, and hey, it holds you accountable too.
Now, setting your own boundaries is huge. But let's be real. A truly mentally safe culture has to come from the top. Leadership has to model the way.
This idea of role modeling is, well, it's everything. It's not about what a leader says, it's about what they do. If your boss talks about work-life balance but then fires off emails all weekend, the message you actually get is, the rules don't really apply if you want to get ahead here.
This is such a powerful example. Palanti tells this story about a CEO who took a 2-week vacation and fully disconnected for the first time ever. That one single action sent a massive signal to the entire company. It basically gave everyone else permission to do the same. It showed trust, and it showed that rest isn't just okay, it's encouraged.
So, you see, leadership action doesn't have to be some grand, complicated gesture. Just start talking about mental health to break that stigma. Maybe share your own struggles to make it human. And when you take time off, really take time off. Those actions are what create the psychological safety that everyone else needs to do their best work.
It's important to remember that this whole conversation isn't happening in a vacuum. It's part of this massive, and I think irreversible shift in the world of work.
It's being driven by a whole new level of awareness and, frankly, the demands of the next generation.
I mean, come on. When the U.S. Surgeon General creates a formal framework for something like this, you know it's not just a passing fad. This is a signal that our whole understanding of what an employer is responsible for is changing for good. And this data right here tells you everything you need to know about where things are headed. As Planty says, for Gen Z and the Gen Alphas coming up behind them, talking about therapy isn't some taboo thing. It's as normal as talking about going to the gym. They grew up speaking this language, and they're bringing that expectation with them to work.
And that right there is the bottom line for every single company out there. What used to be a fun little perk, like a ping pong table, is now a fundamental requirement. If you don't offer real mental health support, you're just not going to be able to hire or keep the next generation of talent, period. So, that really leaves us with this final, challenging thought. This isn't about preparing for some far-off future. That future's already here. The shift has happened. Being a mentally fit workplace isn't optional anymore. It's the thing that will decide which companies thrive and which ones get left in the dust. The only question is, are you ready to listen?